Hello and welcome to 100 Yards of Football, Sports Talk Radio. I'm your producer, Jeremiah Long, and joining me here on this amazing Monday is our other host with the most, a man who has been coming up in this like a tree, watching his tendrils grow, bushel, get the fruit on it. That fruit gets harvested, and then they eat that fruit, the fruit of knowledge, and then they have the knowledge. And yeah, I don't know where I'm going with this analogy, but my man himself, a year older than last time we spoke,
Hey.
Logan Landers. How's it going, bro?
Well, like you said, Jeremiah, if I was to be a fruit, I'd just go with my favorite one. I'll go with a banana. Why not? That's always a classic fruit to go with. But yeah, I appreciate that. For everyone out there watching, it was my birthday yesterday. I'm now 23. 1 year older, 1 year wiser, but still ready to talk some good football with you, Jeremiah. And we got a good game coming up.
We do. And of course, it's going to be dear and dear to my heart because we're talking about the Tennessee Volunteers versus the Florida Gators. This is a huge rivalry game for Tennessee, or it used to be. These days, it's more of a, we need to get through it and scrape through it kind of game. There was a time about, say 20 years ago, that about the time you were 3 years old, that Tennessee and Florida had a very strong rivalry, and every year people were very excited, especially in Tennessee or down in Gainesville when these games would happen, because of the sheer amount of fans that would travel for the game. Of course, this year is the exact difference of a 20-year reign between those 2 points. But then if you went down to the UT Strip and you on the day of the Florida game, first off, you would see our sea of orange, which would be everywhere. But you'd also see these like tributaries of Florida fans all over the place. There would be a lot of them. Some people would say there'd be 10 to 20,000 people in the stadium that came for the game. That's a big number of people traveling. And same thing would happen when Tennessee would play down in Gainesville. Now, what happened after those games? It's a rivalry. So when Tennessee won, the Strip was pretty ruckus, and the Florida fans had their they were pretty excitable. But when the Florida won down on the UT Strip, it was a madhouse. I'll tell you this. And I've been down in Gainesville one time during the Tennessee-Florida game, and again, it's an amazing sea of blue and orange, I guess, right? And you see that through there, and there's some very nice people, but they will tell you right up. Like my friend was wearing a UT Vols shirt, and we are trying to go into a club after the game, and he's like, the club bouncer at the front was like, "You're definitely not getting in here with that shirt on."
And just ruthless.
Yeah. Oh, actually, I forgot a part. He was wearing a long white tee when we got there, and the guy was like, "No, or you can't wear that because it's a long white tee." That was kind of a problem at the time. So he takes that off, and he's wearing his UT shirt under it, and he's like, "No, if you can't wear that, you're definitely not getting in with that one." And so, it was a strong rivalry. These days with Tennessee and Florida in 2020, it is the COVID season. People are not going to be able to travel for these games. There will be some traveling, of course. I'm not recommending that, of course. But, we're not going to have that same idea. And it also is a different world where Florida is building up. They're trying to reestablish themselves. And Tennessee, while they're trying to do the same thing, has not been able to get the same foothold that Florida has been able to get in the SEC and actually show the potential that they have for their team. So, Logan, give it to us straight. Break it down. Florida versus Tennessee. What are the keys? What has to happen?
Well, first, let's just start with Tennessee. To me, they have to play a perfect game. They've been struggling a lot recently. Jeremiah, as you're well aware of, over the last couple of months, honestly, they had that nice start to begin the year, but it seems like ever since then that the wheels have just kind of fallen off, man. I don't know what's been going on. I don't know if it's just been the coaching or the quarterback play mostly, or the defense just not stepping up. But the team in general just hasn't looked good since their 2-0 start. I mean, they haven't won a game since October. So they definitely need a good win here. But this Florida team is definitely no joke. They're currently number 6 right now, going into the college football playoffs. So they're right at the cusp of potentially getting in. They need Texas A&M to lose. That's the only team who beat them this year. So they definitely need a loss by them. And I mean, it might happen. Texas A&M. We've seen crazy things happen in college football, and we've seen just teams go down at the end. And I mean, Tennessee, they might not win this game, against Florida, but they're playing Texas A&M on December 12th. So that could potentially they could play spoilers for them even if they don't get the win in this game. So they could help out Florida by losing this game, so Florida get another win. They could help them out by knocking out Texas A&M next week. So that's going to be very interesting to see if that does happen. But for Tennessee, man, like I said, they're just kind of in a rut right now. Jeremy Pruitt's their head coach, and he's trying his best with that team. We've seen games where they look like they're all in and they might get the win in the end. And I mean, we've seen others where they just get, beat in the first half, and that's really the end of the ball game. So it's just kind of a tale of two halves here. If I'm Tennessee, I would love to see just a complete full game where you guys are playing hard and you guys are going to try and get the win no matter what. Yeah. Because I mean, they played Auburn this past last week and they lost 30-17. So they didn't get blown out by any means. It wasn't against like an Alabama nightmare where they lost by about 30. So they're hanging in there. They're not getting beat 40-0. There's not like they're just sitting down or anything. They're trying, but they just can't seem to get over the hump of what is the very stacked SEC. I mean, like you were saying in the opening, this all SEC schedule has just been kind of rough on a lot of teams. With Tennessee, really, Vanderbilt also. It's just been rough, but especially like for Florida, if they didn't have to play that game against Texas A&M earlier in the year, they might be ahead of them even. Right. So that's always just in the back of your mind of what could potentially happen. So it's pretty crazy, and I mean with the SEC championship game also coming up, which is going to be a big factor. It's looking like it's going to be Alabama, of course. Let's face it, it's Alabama. They're always going to be on top. It seems like they've always been trying to get championships ever since I've been alive, and just stuff like that. So they've been holding that stronghold for the longest time now. But the SEC is looking very strong, in terms of that game. You got Florida, you got Texas A&M. Those are the two guys that are really going at it. So, I mean, at the end of the day, I don't know, because, I mean, it's a really close matchup, but it's really fun to look at also, just based off the firepower that you've got. So let's talk about Florida for a little bit. They've got one of the top Heisman watch quarterbacks with Kyle Trask, who's been absolutely balling out this season. And, I mean, if it wasn't for Mac Jones at Alabama, once again, Alabama rearing its ugly head for all the Florida Gator fans, then, I mean, I think this guy would have won Heisman, no doubt. I mean, I'm looking at his stats here, and he's been on an absolute tear. Absolutely. So far, he's got 2,810 yards. He's got a 71% completion percentage, and he's got 34 touchdowns with only 3 interceptions on the year in an all-SEC schedule. So he is absolutely playing his best. It's definitely his best, his season so far. I know before the season even started, me and you did a player profile on him. We thought he was going to have a big year, but, man, I don't think either of us saw he was going to potentially get a Heisman this year. Yeah. So I'd love to – I've been watching a few of the Florida games recently, and, man, he's looked really good. He's got a lot of arm strength now, very accurate, like I said, with that 71% completion percentage and everything. But, man, if it wasn't for him, I don't know how good this Florida team would be because, man, he is just lighting up stat sheets left and right. And, he's got a good core around him. He's got really good he's got really good receivers. He's got, of course, Kyle Pitts, the tight end, who a lot of people think is one of the best tight ends in football. So that's the 1-2 punch right there. Also, Vincent Turner, how's it going, man? I know you got the balls in this one, but it's going to be a rough one, Vince. I know that one. The Gators are just looking a little bit too stacked on the offensive side of the ball. So wrap things up here. Quick preview for everything here. If you're Florida, don't take it lightly. Don't have this as like a throwaway game or anything because the Vols are a very solid team. We've seen that they have struggled and everything, but, they could pull an upset here. And like I said, if they don't pull it this week, then they can help out Florida and beat A&M next week. Okay. So I'm not counting out this Tennessee team by any means. They do have some nice pieces on the offense as well as the defense. But my question to you, Jeremiah, I just got one for you real quick. Mm-hmm. Do you think it's time for Garantano to kind of ride this season out and start Harrison Bailey in these big games? Or do you think you stick with Garantano in these last 2 games and the next season just kind of turn the keys over to Harrison Bailey?
I think as the Tennessee Vols staff has to go, you got to kind of keep it in the hands of the man that you have. It's like Yeah, it's the horse that you know how to ride sometimes
Right.
over the wild, new stallion. That being said, I feel like these last two games could be a huge opportunity for
Mm.
Harrison Bailey to get in, understand, to actually play on a full SEC level in a few actual games. And he just needs to know what he's getting himself into before he has to really take the weight of this team over next year. And I'm cool with Jared with Garantano doing what he's got to do and get through it. He's not a bad player by any means.
No.
He's just inconsistent. That's where the
Right.
main
That's
thing
it.
that I think any Vol fan would admit to, even if you love him, he has some inconsistencies. So that being said, you want to let him play out. You want to let him finish his season. That's a certain respect. I understand that. But on the backside of that, you need to be thinking about your 2021 season and what it is you're going to be doing. And will your starting quarterback for next season have enough experience to come out the gate and play 4 quarters of football? So in that case, I would like to see Harrison Bailey be the man for these last 2 games, at least in the second half of each game. Because I'll tell you this, as a Vols fan, I have seen the Vols play 2 quarters of one game and 2 quarters of a different game over and over. You might as well do it on purpose. Play 2 quarters with Garantano and play 2 quarters with Bailey and just see what you get out of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's worth a shot, definitely. I mean, let's just say if Florida is ahead by a good bit, you might as well just throw the young man out there and get some reps in. Right. I mean, this is great for building his character, his reputation, and even just getting confidence. Because, like you said, he's more than likely going to be the starter next year. At least a lot of Vols fans hope so. Right. So we'll have to see. But I mean, in this game alone, I just see Florida being too overpowering in their offensive side of the ball, just because, like I said, I just rattled off those numbers there with Kyle Trask, and I mean, I think the numbers just need to speak for themselves. This guy's at least not one, if not number 2, for the Heisman voting, with Mac Jones, of course, right above him. So they're going to be duking it out for the rest of the season. I do think that if Alabama remains number 1, which I think they will, then Mac Jones will get the Heisman. But don't sleep on Kyle Trask, though, because we've seen a lot of Heisman runner-ups be great in, college the next season or in the NFL. So even if he doesn't win this award, that doesn't mean he's not a bad player by any means. It's just he had someone a little bit better than him. But definitely Kyle Trask does have all the tools and all the intangibles to lead the Gators to potentially a championship this next season, because it's looking like it's just a little too late for the Gators to sneak in. They need a little bit of luck. But all the hope's not gone. So if you're a Gators fan, just, fingers crossed, some crazy upsets happen, and you might be able to sneak your way into that college football playoff.
True. I can definitely see it. So those are 2 other keys that I want to bring up real quick. Is first off, was it 72%, did you say?
Yeah, 71% from Kyle.
Good grief. 71% sounds robotic. It sounds like a video game. Like, when you're coming up against a guy who's 71% like that, as the Vols, you've got to cover. You've got to cover your man. You've got to play fundamental football, because this clearly is a guy who's going to find his runner. He's going to find his route. He's going to get the guy. He's going to make that connection if you give him just a millimeter of extra breathing room. So you got to keep that pressure on. The other thing I was going to ask you is, does Garantano head towards the draft after this year, or what happens with his career?
I mean, I'm sure he will, because I don't see him coming back for an extra season. I mean, he does have that option now with the COVID year. Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, this will be his, I think, 6th year. Mm-hmm. So I think he'd be ready to. I think he sees the writing on the wall. Harrison Bailey has been getting a few reps in these games recently, so I think that Garantano will go to the draft, and I think he'll probably be a late pick. I don't know. I don't have a team in mind that will pick him. Yeah. But I just see him kind of being a bench piece in the NFL in the beginning, and he could potentially work his way up to a starter, but not the beginning of his career. I don't see that.
Yeah. Well, those are a lot of things that we're really going to have to look at when it comes to the Tennessee Vols versus the Florida Gators. We are here at 100 Yards of Football, Sports Talk Radio, doing these shows live every week. We want to make sure that if you want to see something, whether it's more coverage of a certain team that you love, whether it's interviews with the players, coaches, and staff of these great teams, legendary interviews with the players that brought up these teams and created these amazing legacies, or whether you want great sportscasters to come on to our show and talk about the teams they love from a local perspective, That's what we do. And that's what we really pride ourselves on here at 100 Yards of Football. And we also are broadcasting live every week, not only here, but we put up our podcast on the Believe Podcast Network. And you can look at that over at Spotify. You can look at it at Apple. And you can look over at Stitcher and other anywhere you get your podcasts. So if you love the podcast version of any Sports Talks radio or any kind of sports cast, you're really going to love 100 Yards of Football. Because not only do we bring you the game previews, but we bring you all these legend videos, history videos, and more, plus these great interviews with some of the great players. And once we put those up each week, like, what do you think, Logan? We probably have a podcast that comes out practically every day.
Yeah, for the most part, yeah. We typically put out game previews on the same day, and then we just, throughout the week, we just put up usually about a video a day. We normally do about 7 to 8 per week. So yeah, usually you guys usually get something every single day, if not multiple times per day. So we're very consistent with uploading, like you said, on all those platforms through Believe. So yeah, definitely be sure to check us out. We got a lot of great videos up there already. We got all of our previous audio experiences over there with some of our great legends videos and player profiles and stuff like that. So be sure to check us out over there as well. We're doing some great numbers, and we're hoping to see the fan base follow us over there.
Absolutely. So make sure, again, if you listen to podcasts, to listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere that you get podcasts. Well, for the whole team here at 100 Yards of Football, Sports Talk Radio, I'm the producer, Jeremiah Long. We've been listening to one of the best sports analysts. I just love listening to you pour your stats and the way that you present things, because you always have a good balanced perspective, and you always have, you know what you're talking about, brother, and that makes a big difference. So that's our man, Logan Landers himself. We also have a really great team, including Vincent Turner, Bobby Butler, Coach Kevin the Bull Jones, and we even bring you a basketball update with some of our great commentators, including Coach Brian Spencer from Carver Bible College. So join our entire team all week long, and please let us know in the comments what it is that you want to see. So for the whole team, I am Jeremiah. We'll see you guys later. Bye.